Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now, a terrible, no good, very bad week has started for Kabam. It's going to be interesting to see how it finishes. Now, hopefully it's going to go better. But before, again, we go any deeper into the details of the video, I do want to remind people that I love this game. I think it could be much better. I think it's Kabam's negligence that has prevented this game from growing 10 times the size that it is. I think there are extremely unfortunate things happening in the game in general. I do believe it could be a very good time to make a state of game video as well, because there are good things, there are positive things over the 2023, and there are obviously very, very negative trends and problems with the game. And one of the biggest ones seems to be the competence or the ability to launch the content. So without going much into, every single specific detail, we are going to be talking about the raids being delayed yet again, the EOP release, the anger Kabam has caused with the EOP, and a few other things. Just on top of my head, this week so far we have had Incursion's black screen, being unable to select correct champions in AQ and AW, I believe, because of you can only select raid champions for that, which is what caused raids to be pushed over a week. So that was another unfortunate announcement. I believe Paragon Winter of Woe solo objective was bugged, and they basically had to reset it, and they will have to manually redistribute the points to the Paragon players. I do believe that Danny Moonstar's bug fix, which, countering Nick Fury is kind of her entire selling point. Well, she doesn't. Nick Fury seems to bypass that. There's some weird new interaction happening with Nick Fury and Archangel, which isn't, stopping the encroaching stun. So something's very much so up there. Warlock was bugged in Winter of Woe fight and a few other champions because of the way the nodes were set that they had to fix and address. I believe I could go on. And it does appear that the war tactic is bugged again, and it's back to the old version, not the changed version that it was meant to be, because it was said that it's going to be tuned down, but it does appear to be back to its super amped version. So that's just quite literally, me writing things down for a minute and checking out in forums. I'm sure that I'm missing plenty of things, and I'm not even going to mention stuff like, Galan being bugged for like a year now, missing 2 incinerates of his special attack, and plenty of other champions and interactions. And, you do want to be understanding to people because things do go wrong, of course, and especially if you're overworked and perhaps there isn't enough help, and if you're trying to do too much or something. One thing is clear, it cannot really go on like this. Kabam needs more help. I think, maybe they're working under strict budgetary restrictions. At the end of the day, I do think it becomes a resource management issue, work ethic and a resource management issue, because, they did bring us relics that I hope that they will monetize to no end. And as a direct result of relics, we have gotten significantly smaller champion buff program, for instance. And we can make plenty of examples like that, where Kabam definitely has invested like a ton of time to the things that, perhaps would have been better used with something else. Like, think to yourselves, like, are relics that, because relics quite literally probably cost millions to develop in the work hours and everything else. Have relics made the game that much better, that much more enjoyable? I would argue no. I think strikers are kind of cool idea, but it could have been a much, much, much smaller concept. And it does seem that, either there is a somewhat of a big disconnect, and that disconnect could possibly be growing, judging by the reaction of Winter of Woe with the player base, or there is understaffing issue or something is along the way. Because again, I want this game to do the best it can. I do think this game could have been 10 times the size it is right now had Kabam been better at managing it and developing it, and perhaps most importantly, maintaining it. I have lost count of how many people I have seen rage out of this game and stop playing, or basically just become super casual just because of all the bugs and the broken interactions and Kabam's inability to address them and fix them quickly. And it's a funny fact. Since I have started uploading the videos, last month was the first time ever when my net subscriber gain went down a bit. Now, obviously, it could be down to me not being active enough and uploading more videos, but effectively, didn't do anything controversial. There was no drama. It was just clear that comment after comment and person after person, I get somebody coming to my videos saying like, wish you all the best, but I'm done. Wish you all the best, but I'm leaving. Wish you all the best. Loved watching you, but I'm moving on. And that is something Kabam has to be genuinely worried about because this game's 10 years old. There's way more competition than it used to be, and they need to keep the game lively. And they need to bring new things, but they also need to make sure that the game is enjoyable, that it doesn't become overwhelming. We get more added to the top of top and top of top things. And at the same time, as soon as Battlegrounds go off season, the game can feel absolutely dead. If you have like 8 game modes or many other things happening, and there's like one thing that goes away and it immediately feels like the game is quite dead, something's wrong. Something hasn't quite worked out. And I'm not a game developer. I don't know how to make an ideal game, but I do think they kind of, got lost within themselves in expanding the game somewhat. Again, there are definitely negative trends in the game right now that makes it much harder for an average player or even like somewhat experienced and dedicated player to play this game. And I'm not necessarily talking about the difficulty of Winter of WoW, which I personally have much less issue with than majority of the player base. I'm talking about Kabam releasing, defender after defender after defender, and when people are just about learning how to fight Photon without Mantis, you get Bullseye, which is an absolute bullshit champion, and it's just not fun. Really isn't. And then obviously there's Maestro and there's an Onslaught, and then people are, getting confused who to ban in Battlegrounds. People are getting wrecked more in Alliance War. And I'm not saying that we don't need defensive champions by any means at all. Because what I'm saying is, Kabam needs to be careful when they do these things, because what makes sense on paper often doesn't reflect it in reality, because there are things that they continuously and constantly overlook. And that leads us to right now, pretty much, when we are in a situation when the new update comes and the player base expects things to go wrong, and Kabam never fails to deliver that. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's tons of things that are broken with the new update already. There are tons of negative feedback because of Winter of WoW, and in some of these situations, Kabam is damned if they do, damned if they don't. Absolutely, one of the common trends or common comments in MCOC is, I normally like hard fights, but, or I like challenges, but, or like I'm quite skilled player, but this is bullshit. And again, I will respectfully disagree if it's an endgame piece of content in Winter of WoW, and it has RPG counters, more than one, for instance, with a tap topic. I genuinely don't have an issue with that fight because they're clearly doable. And not everybody is entitled to, being able to solo a boss fight. Again, I do have my issue with the robot objective, but, the Sinister 6 one, the Gamma objectives, I think are fine and fair, and Absorbing fight, yeah, it's hard. I kind of like it that way. That's, what got me excited. And again, somebody's obviously going to jump in comment section again. It's easy for me to speak or something like that. And it isn't. When you keep in mind that, 90+% of the content isn't made for me or players like me. And I have had to make my peace with it. That Act 7 and Act 8 isn't challenging anymore. I used to enjoy the struggle sessions and, peak content. Kabam has greatly reduced that. Now, and once in a while, we get something that seems to be somewhat supercharged. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not judging or going up against people who do at all. You all have your own opinions and, the levels where you wish the game would be at. And that's fine. That's why we don't have to see everything the same way. But there are unanimous things, however, that we do need to address as well, which is like that energy cost announcement. And some people have said it's not really a big deal. I think it is bigger deal than some players like to pretend it is. Because it's not just about 10 energy. It's very easy to say, it's just 10 energy. But you have to do it multiple times, obviously. And not having that cost enabled people to go in and practice, enabled people to, have fun for hours trying to beat a challenging boss, which is what these things should be. Now you're getting penalized for it. And so here's a very good forum post that Chowner started about basically going over the live stream and the 10 energy cost announcement and his thoughts about it. And then we have a Jack's response, which, again, all respect to Jax, he's doing a job, he's presenting the information that he's meant to present. And I think as far as community managers go, Jax is a jackpot for Kabam. He's pretty much as good as one we have had. I don't know how many of you still remember Adora. She was very good at her job, in my opinion, and actually cared for the players. But Jax clearly, is good at what he does. He presents the information that he's given, and he depends the company that pays his bills. That's his job. It doesn't mean he's always right, or it doesn't mean that the spin that he puts on things is always reasonable. But let's break it down. We'll hop in here and add some additional insight. There are times where choices are made or systems are implemented when we know summoners are going to be unhappy, but those changes are deemed necessary. Take a look at removing revive farming most recently. As an example, just because we know this choice is going to be unpopular doesn't mean they aren't warranted. Sometimes there is a fundamental difference between what summoners want and what the game needs. We have discussed this concept before. Again, are you really trying to say that this game, Kabam, needed those energy refills from the most dedicated players that are trying to enjoy this game to the best that they have to offer? I don't think so. It's not a game economy issue. It's not halving the price of audience. It's not halving the price of potions or revives. It's just sucking out the stash that people have. What you're seeing in the live stream isn't us trying to sell you on the energy being a positive, because that would be ridiculous, of course. We also spoke honestly about why this energy cost needs to exist. But for extra context, there are many players who would dive into this type of context, practice, lose, and restart in order to work towards a solo. Yeah, of course they would. And then they would feel great when they accomplish that solo, and there we go. Literally requiring no cost to their account. I don't mean cost in a financial sense, but we said on the stream, summoners aren't meant to get high rewards for literally nothing. Then don't say time that isn't a relevant resource in the game's economical balance. But it is. It really is. As in, level of player engagement is something that dictates a lot. And you cannot just dismiss time as a resource. Part of your own game, you openly admit, that, for instance, Arena requires time, and Arena provides significant resources, the most premium currency in the game, which is used to acquire high rewards. So this argument, again, is flat out bullshit. Kabam's literally in the business of exchanging our time for goods that we can purchase for money. So again, all respect to the Jax, and I honestly do not believe that he's dumb enough to believe what he just said. Because again, to break it down in the very simple sense, this game exchanges time for rewards. Some better, some worse. But that does include premium currency in this game, which is units. Especially a game mode like Arena. So if you can exchange time for premium currency, you can exchange time for the premium top tier high-end rewards. I don't think that's a controversial statement. In this game, virtually all you do is exchange time and money for the rewards. Especially, again, when you name arena. That is the literal definition. I'm going to grind for 2 hours. I'm going to X amount of units. I'm going to be able to get X amount of from somewhere, which also includes, special offers with the top tier rewards that Kabam has ever offered and will ever offer. So, yeah, counts. And if spending, and here's the ridiculous part. You can spend 2 hours trying to practice and beat the boss and feel accomplished. Or you can spend 2 hours grinding arena and then buy revives and revive your way through the boss fight and feel like a piece of shit. And possibly that's going to be cheaper for you. Well, I'm not feel like a piece of shit, but you're definitely not going to feel as accomplished as if you were able or given a chance to practice and get that solo. So again, this is, I believe, one example where they are kind of lost within themselves and they are, lying to themselves effectively. Because again, there is absolutely no argument against the statement that in this game you exchange your time for rewards and resources. And that includes top tier resources. There is absolutely no reason why we need to take now extra steps and why players should go grind arena to buy the refills and then get the opportunity to try and solo the boss because let's say they grind for 2 hours, get 200 units, buy 7 refills, and now they can go and grind. That's just unnecessary step. It's quite simply it's increase of cost because Kabam wants there to be an increase of cost. It's not because they want to add a cost, for an endgame content. Cost always existed then, and the cost is time. And again, I think Jax is great at his job. I think that is something that he's told to tell you guys. And he does it the best he can. Absolutely nothing against Jax. I just don't think he believes that. Or more specifically, I don't think he would believe that if he would think it through. Aside from restating what happened in the live stream, I'm not sure what commentary is there. We presented information we knew wasn't going to be popular from the community, but knew was necessary from the game design perspective. If that's all, I'm glad we're aligned. So this message ultimately is, you don't value your time, you only value your resources, which hopefully you acquire for cash. Or at the very least, we fully intend to drain your stash or something like that. Now, believe it or not, there are positive implications to this Kabam's higher accent and resources. And this is one thing where I think Kabam sharing and openly talking about these things would have made community a lot more understanding. Because there was a time in this game when the special offers, the spend $100 and get a 6-star champion didn't really exist. And when the money was spent on the game, it was largely spent on units to acquire resources. You follow me? It wasn't like, I'm going to buy this offer and I'm going to be able to rank up this champion. It was, I'm going to buy this offer, I'm going to get these units, and then I'm going to be able to revive my way through or push through some extremely difficult piece of content. And that was how you progressed faster. And I think that is actually a cooler way to play the game. Where if you're skilled, you don't need as many resources, you don't need to spend, but you get, great rewards. Or if you're dedicated, you grind arena, you don't need to spend, but you get the rewards because there's content for you to kind of like get through to the best of your ability. And overall, last year, I do think Kabam has been somewhat returning to that. Where, you can get more than you used to a year or two ago just by playing the game. And I think that is part of what Kabam is doing right now, or at the very least, I hope. Because Kabam is obviously limiting and cutting off our access to resources that were in abundance previously, like the revive nerfs that they mentioned, like the energy here that we don't get infinite rise, like the increased cost of like alliance raids and stuff like that. And if done properly, I would prefer that version of MCOC. where less emphasis is made on which offers you are able to buy and not, and more emphasis is placed on which content have you done or which content have you struggled through. And I like that. But if that is the case, I also want Kabam to be, open about it and present it in exactly that type of manner. Because the possible worst case scenario here is that Kabam is trying to get the best of both worlds, where they're going to keep the amount of, massive sales and massive resources in the offers, as well as try and bankrupt people's stashes, basically, to force additional unit spend in all of these pieces of content, which is also a perfectly plausible scenario to happen. But that also obviously could, just scare away far too many people. If people had the reassurance that it's okay to struggle more with content and they can use their units and they can use their money to clear content because it's not going to be as necessary for offers and offers and special deals and stuff like that, that would serve as a very great reassurance to players, as a morale boost to free to play and low spenders. But I highly doubt Kabam's ever going to be as open to talk about these things in a manner that we would like them to. So here we are. Kabam's no good, very bad week, and their response to the winter of woe and the delay of raids and everything else. Needless to say, I do hope that they get under control. I hope nothing major goes wrong with this update again. See you soon, guys. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have